Oh, hello there, yes. Well, whilst Londoners wake up in trepidation, wondering if their beloved city will still exist at the end of the day due to a billion Islamists bussing in from, I don't know, Leicester, presumably. Um, One has to think about all of the fact that those dire warnings by people that we all respect are consistently ignored. And perhaps one of the problems, of course, is that the dire warnings that are given out by those that we consistently ignored are probably consistently ignored because the dire warnings are, well, just not real, actually. And we have seen quite a few of these in the last few days. And I'll give you Exhibit A, if you like, in that Glinner decided to go on the podcast The Lotus Eaters, where he was explaining to various people that he used to be left-wing, but he can't be anymore because they're anti-Semitic and they dislike women intensely and they're misogynistic. Which is the sort of thing you would go on the podcast The Lotus Eaters with Carl and explain, wouldn't you? And I'm sure they agreed with him. It must be dreadful to be surrounded by people that are anti-Semitic and misogynistic. Luckily, there's a safe space for Glinner there. I doubt very much if anyone's going to ask him any questions about that, and whenever they do ask him questions about the fact that he calls everyone that he doesn't like a nonce, he'll point to a higher truth, which is always, well, they are nonces, even when he has no evidence of that whatsoever, because it's a higher truth, and that's probably the important thing. And talking of higher truths, we've had a bit of a hoo-ha with Douglas Murray, a man who's always right, primarily as far as I can make out, because he is Douglas Murray. Anyway, he wrote a piece in the Jewish Chronicle, which has got various people upset, and you can read this down below for yourself, but he was suggesting that Hamas are very, very bad and worse than the Nazis, because, drumroll, the Nazis felt very bad about killing so many people, effectively. I mean, please do read this yourself. I'm paraphrasing like some other people have done, and Douglas, because he's right, is insisting that he's right because he's Douglas, because that is just simply the truth. But that isn't exactly what he said, but actually that is exactly what he has said, and I would point Douglas to maybe some other people that actually write books that slightly have slightly more validity. You could read, for example, The Holocaust of Bullets, which goes into great detail about first-hand accounts from Ukrainian villages and Belarusian villages of a carnival atmosphere on the day when the Einsatzgruppen arrived, or indeed anything pretty much from David Snyder's Bloodlands. But obviously those things are wrong, and Douglas Murray is right because he's Douglas Murray, and it's that kind of higher truth thing. And just on a generic level, we end up with the right-wing press like the Daily Mail and GB News being absolutely gleeful at the fact that the school has denied that they're giving furry children cat litters, and have picked up on this as proof that they are giving furry children cat litter, which is still something I can't quite get my head round. I don't know if you can explain that one to me. Please do. Maybe Douglas can. Maybe if he says it, it must be true because it will be Douglas Murray. And lastly, we have Mr. Hunt. Yes, another one of those Conservative MPs who managed to do the usual thing, which is see something from a right-winger on Twitter or on GB News and repost it, which upsets some of his constituents about things not being taught in schools. Something I've said before, the gingerbread person not being taught in schools, no evidence that it is, or if it is being used by teachers, it's not being taught. But let's just see the way that he manages to still be right even though he's wrong. I think it's worthwhile doing this. Mr. Hunt admitted he'd not spoken to the school or sought out more information beyond the short videos shared on X, formerly known as Twitter. I smell James S's there. I think we need to be very, very careful when we teach gender ideology and issues around gender identity in schools. Yes, we do, not just posting hateful things on the internet, if you think about it. I'm worried about some dangerous consequences of young people being exposed to that theory, particularly when it's taught as fact. And yet, here we are in a piece whereby basically people have said to him, it isn't being taught as fact, is it, Mr. Hunt? But magically, it's still a higher truth. They still are all nonsense, aren't they? He said he thought support should be available on an individual basis. It's not. You hacked it to death during austerity for young people unsure about gender identity, but that controversial theories should not be taught to an entire class. And I would wholeheartedly agree with that last part. I think controversial theories shouldn't be taught to an entire class, which is why I want to see any form of conventional capitalist economics banned, because patently it's a load of old tosh. Let's get rid of that, Mr. Hunt. What? Oh, not those controversial theories. Just the ones you don't like, eh? Just the ones that you can make up stories about, and even when you're tackled on it, magically, they still are all nonsense. Indeed. Well done, Mr. Hunt. Anyway, if you are in London today, what can I say? Do survive. Have a lovely Saturday for the rest of you. Watch out for those buses on the way home. Some of those Islamists are pretending to be good, decent, white and Christian and Jewish people. So watch out for them. They could be anywhere. Okay? They're all nonsense. Just ask Douglas. He's always right.